1 minute till broadcast. One minute till broadcast. Seconds till broadcast. Five, four, three, two, one. Begin transmission.
Fighting for freedom every day.
Let me tell you, the response to the show has been absolutely amazing. People can't believe that a young conservative millennial continues to fight for constitutional principles, traditional values, and talks about issues that some are even afraid to talk about. But we do it because we understand the importance of this. And now we're seeing it absolutely blow up all across the nation.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yes, it is. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. It is a Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out. Great to have you along. Boy, it's going to be a fun one. I am realizing every day that the show is way too short, and we're going to try and cram as much into an hour as we possibly can. The most jam-packed, action-packed, full talk radio show you'll ever hear in your entire life. We are broadcasting live all over social media, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, YouTube, all that good stuff. Also on the line at HoosierReason.com. is the website. You can watch the live stream there as well. We are broadcasting out of the heartland of America, right here from the flagship of the Big Talker KQAM in Wichita, Kansas. It is so awesome to be back at it here in Wichita and on the Big Talker KQAM. We're on so many stations right now and many more that will be joining us very, very soon, which I am so excited about as well. Make sure to tune in. You can also email me, Hoosier Media Network at gmail.com. Shoot us an email. Let me know your thoughts on the show. Leave us comments all over the social media as you watch us there. And great to have you for the ride. Coming up on the program today, we have Congressman Bob Latta from the 5th Congressional District from the state of Ohio, the district that I just came from, which I'm really excited to talk to him. I knew him from when I was in the College Republicans way back in the day. It's crazy. I'm starting to feel old now. I'm a millennial, but I'm starting to actually feel old because things are like 5, 10, 7, 15 years back, and I'm like, wow, that's actually gone by pretty quickly. I know it's crazy, and people that are older than me are like, come on, Andy. Come on. You're not that old. But I'm starting to feel it. So we have, he's still there, Congressman Bob Latta from the 5th Congressional District. We'll have him on the show. We talked to him just a couple of days ago and recorded it, so we'll play that interview at the bottom of the hour, after the bottom of the hour, and I'll look forward to chatting with him. Great information, especially with the coronavirus, with some of the budgetary issues and the reopening, along with some of the civil rights movements that are going on and the protests that are happening right now. So we'll do that here in just a little bit. But there are some controversial topics that I think we need to address, and we need to seriously look at them and wonder if it's a good thing or not. Now, as you know, Donald Trump is president. I am in full support of President Donald Trump and 90% of what he does. But there are a couple of things, especially with the uneasiness of the country right now, where I'm a little concerned. And one of them is he just did, what was it, yesterday, and hat tip to NBC News on this one, where he signed his police reform executive action that's trying to hold some higher standards for the police force, which is fine. And I don't have a problem per se with the mentality of it, but everybody wanted him to do that because it kind of goes back to the whole Second Amendment argument of we need to do something, right? There's an issue. We need to do something. And I agree, we need to do something, but the grander scale is what do we actually need to do and who needs to do it? We need to do something. Okay, we need to do something. What is it? We need to reform police. Okay, we need to reform police. Do we need to completely defund police? No, which we'll get to in a second, because that's going to cause absolute devastation. Everybody knows it. Common sense people at least know it. Maybe they don't. Maybe the progressives don't. Maybe the Black Lives Matter movement doesn't. I don't know. Maybe they're just angry and they want to lash out. Kind of like when you need that proper batting routine. If you have the wrong form, you overcorrect for the muscle memory. You overcorrect yourself in order to get into that slot. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. Push as far as you can to see where we get to and see if it's far enough. Or the ideologues, which most of them are. See, I give them way too much credit sometimes. On the radical side of it, they truly do want the purest all or nothing mentality, and they either want all of it or they don't want anything and they want to blow up the system, which is what we're seeing with the autonomous zone in Seattle. We're seeing the defunding of the police force of Minneapolis. We're seeing the new branch of government in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I want to get to all of that in the program today, time allowing. But Donald Trump, then, first off, before we get to Donald Trump's executive action, we need to remember that law enforcement is not a federal matter. There are ways to help law enforcement at the federal level, but law enforcement is a state issue. You have the local police in your city, you have the county sheriff's department, and you have state patrol. There is no federal law enforcement unless you want to count the National Guard that gets called in on serious times. But there are no actual federal law enforcement agencies. I mean, of course, unless like CIA, FBI, that sort of thing, but they're not really boots on the ground unless there's a serious federal issue, right? We don't have a law enforcement agency that is a federal law enforcement agency per se that's on the streets pulling us over for street violations or breaking into our home for drug possession or something like that. They don't do that unless it's a crazy international deal or a national deal. Then they step in. But many individuals have advocated for the federalization of law enforcement, which I strongly oppose as a conservative, and we like limited government, number one. Number two, that opens the Pandora's box to allow government to really impose its will on federal law and have federal law enforcement officers enforcing those laws. We have enough issues right now with individuals not trusting police. Why in the world would you go to the extreme of federalizing law enforcement in that sense and have them be an overview of said thing? Again, I don't think the progressives acknowledged or accepted or realized that when the George Floyd issue happened up in Minneapolis, that they would not have people butting up against them and fighting them on this. They were itching, they were ready, they wanted to lash out, and they thought their best option would be to blow up the system, try and defund law enforcement, and start the protests that went nationwide. I don't think they were ready for the fact that the vast majority of Americans, the vast majority of law enforcement agencies across the nation rose up with them, spoke out and said, this is wrong, we don't like it, and we're going to do reforms. Here in Kansas, we had law enforcement individuals say the same thing. You know what? That is murder. I didn't like what we saw there. That's not what we train our law enforcement officers here in Kansas or in the city of Wichita or Sedgwick County or wherever where you may be across the state or in the nation. They spoke out. That's not what we do. We don't train that kind of chokehold. That's ridiculous. He's not responding. He was very cold. He was very non-emotional when people were saying he can't breathe. He wasn't acknowledging the suspect that they had. He was doing it all wrong. Now, come to find out, he was a jerk cop who had been there, who had had a bad record for the last 18 years on the force. So that's the mentality he was. Whether it was a racial thing or not, I don't know. But the communities rose up and said, enough's enough. So Trump signs an executive action that says we're going to reform to hold them to a higher standard. This, according to NBC News, that he rejected the ideas to defund police as a radical and dangerous movement, but he outlined programs designed to hold police to higher standards and accountability and transparency. He also promised them more resources, grant money for departments that met new national accredited standards for use of force, including a ban on chokeholds except when the officer believes his or her life is in danger, a federal database to track problem officers, more support for officers who deal with the homeless, the mentally ill, and drug addicts, along with social workers to help officers navigate those encounters. So that's what the national executive action was that he signed yesterday. And he said that it's a huge first step. It's a huge movement. And that could calm down some individuals. And you know what? Maybe it could to some degree. My question is, as the conservative and the limited government guy that I am, why does it need to come from President Donald Trump and the federal government? I'm glad that Donald Trump spoke out for it. I'm glad that he supported it. I'm glad that he's making it a movement to show that he's not just pro-cop and cops are always good and that the victim is always mad, because 90% of the time that's the case. But those few cases like this need recognition. We need to call out the bad officers that do bad things, that join the force for bad reasons, and we need to make it a better thing. So, yeah, hold them to a higher standard. That's what we should be doing. We should do that with celebrities. We should do that with artists. We should do that with everybody. We should hold them to a higher standard. If you're in the public light in any way, shape, or form, whether we look up to you because we like your music or your poetry or your movies, or whether you're the law enforcement officer that we call on because we have a serious issue, either way, you should be held to a higher standard. People look up to you, and people know, and you should know that people look up to you, and therefore you should act a certain way. And law enforcement is no different. So support it, but why can't that be done at the state levels? Because most states are doing it. Most states have done that. Most states have vocally come out with that since the George Floyd issue. Most states and law enforcement agencies within those states have announced either, yeah, we're already doing this, or, oh my gosh, we're going to update our laws and our reforms, and we're going to do that now. Either way, it's being done. So why does it need to be done? Not against President Donald Trump here, but I'm just concerned, why are we starting to federalize this? Is this an opportunity for the progressives, the big establishment elites, whoever you want to talk about? Is this the opportunity for them to open that Pandora's box to allow the federalization of law enforcement and just say, we're just going to regulate everything from here? Because that's what they want ultimately, and that's what we need to fight against. I don't like that. I like my law enforcement being done locally, so if I have a problem, I can walk into the county sheriff or I can walk into the city police chief's office and say, there's an issue, let's sit down and talk about it. And most of the time, you can do that. You got to remember, police are the ones that are living next door to you. They live in the same community, and most individuals join the force to do good and try and take care of their community. But you have that group that wants to make it better, and then you have the radical group that wants to take it to an extreme and wants to go, again, the ideologues that say all or nothing, that say we want to defund police. Now, constitutionally, because we are the voice of reason, we try to look at it constitutionally. Constitutionally, there's really nothing in there that talks about law enforcement because, again, it's not supposed to be done at the federal level. And back in the day, we didn't have law enforcement because we handled it ourselves. Everybody knew how to handle a gun. We didn't have a whole bunch of radical dumb people. And if we did, then we were very easily able to call them out and deal with it appropriately. Not necessarily just law on the street, but at least we could handle ourselves, and people wouldn't want to mess with it because you knew that your neighbor had 5 guns and that they worked hard. And if you stole one of their horses, then you probably would reap those repercussions. But it's a different time, and there's a need for law enforcement. There's a need to keep peace and law and order in the streets because people try to go out of their way nowadays to say, let's see how far I can push that agenda. Let's see how far I can bend it without it actually breaking. But as you know, that Minneapolis has voted unanimously from their city council to defund their police. This past Sunday, a veto-proof majority, this according to Forbes.com, a veto-proof majority of the council announced plans to disband its police department and invest in community-based public safety programs. According to the resolution, the city council will begin a year-long process of engaging with every willing community member in Minneapolis to develop a new public safety model. Quote, we acknowledge that the current system is not formable. We would like to end the current policy system as we know it. The council declared it would create a transformative new model of public safety in the system. The council also voted unanimously on Friday last week to end local emergency orders that had been declared due to the protests in the wake of George Floyd's death. So, wait a second. So, we have buildings burning down. We have people rioting. We have going into Target and stealing the cash registers, tearing it brick by brick to the ground. and they lift the local emergency order because, well, you know what? We don't want to cause any more havoc. Let's let them do their thing. This is like Seattle. Back off. Let them do their thing. Remember, these are Democrat-run cities, Democrat-run governors, Democrat-run legislatures, Democrat-run leaders in the communities saying, back off. Let's let the protesters do their thing because that's the proper way to handle this. Not cracking down and saying you're breaking the law, you're being treasonous, you're a traitor, you're a terrorist right now, taking over, looting, burning, stealing, whatever you're doing. They don't want to crack down. They just want to say, you know what? We'll just let them do their thing. So they've lifted the local emergency and they voted to defund law enforcement. Now, when we come back, the response to that has been interesting. It's what you and I kind of would expect, but it's tenfold from what they probably anticipated as well. And we've done some verifying and fact-checking on this to make sure that it's legit. So we'll talk about that when we come back. It's The Voice of Reason. We got a lot to get to today. We'll try and cram as much of it in as possible. Stay right here on The Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier with The Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back. And we can help with that. Visit our website at HoosierReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HoosierReason.com. Again, HoosierReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Hey, it's Andy Hoosier. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HoosierReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HoosierReason.com. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station. We're here for you. Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HoosierReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the Voice of Reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hoosier with The Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on The Voice of Reason and the Hoosier Media Network. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with The Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hoosier-holic by going to HoosierReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hoosier Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HoosierReason.com.
For a schedule of upcoming guests on the program, daily show topics, or to reach out to the Hoosier Media Network, visit us on the website at HoosierReason.com. Or for general inquiries, to be a guest on the program, or to have Andy a guest on your program, email us at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Keep fighting for freedom with us every day right here on the Voice of Reason and the Hoosier Media Network. Now, back to the show.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yes, you are, and thanks for doing it each and every day right here on the Voice of Reason, all over the place, radio, TV, online, social media, broadcasting live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter, Twitch, all that stuff. Make sure to check us out on the website, HoosierReason.com. We have some really cool things there, so make sure to watch. One thing that is coming up probably in the next week, if you are new to the show, we do things called the Voice of Reason infomercials, the products. You know, you see the overnight infomercial, get this right now. And we do our own. They're the satire, spoofs, comedy things that we do with the current events. And one is in the works. I'm producing it as we speak, and it'll be out probably, maybe not the end of this week, but maybe next week. So we'll have a new one. The other ones that we've done, they are on the website, so you can go to HoosierReason.com and you can find those, as we enjoy making those. Eventually, what we're going to do is we're going to be growing this big enough to the point where we're actually going to, here's a thought. This is just throwing it out there. Poof. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's a surprise. We're going to work on trying to make these as actual legit gifts, like gag gifts that you can purchase from the Voice of Reason. One of these days, we're going to make that happen. So it'll be a lot of fun. Anyways, we're all over the place. Thanks for hanging out. We'll have Bob Latta, Congressman from the 5th District of Ohio, coming on at the bottom of the hour in just a little bit. But as we wrap up this conversation here, the defunding of police. Minneapolis voted to defund the police and actually have community policing, so to speak. New Mexico, Albuquerque, New Mexico, voted at the same time just recently to add a new agency to the law enforcement agency to have it be social workers that would go out and actually handle something like addicts or the homeless or any type of disturbance, even violent disturbances, which I don't get why you would do that. But you would have social workers go out and handle the issue rather than a police officer, because, again, the police officer's evil and bad. We don't like them, so we need to make them focus on giving you a ticket so we can still get revenue for the city and the county and the state. We'll give you a ticket for not wearing your seatbelt, but if we have a domestic disturbance where there's a beating on your spouse, we're going to have a social worker talk you down rather than the police separate you and handcuff you and arrest you for something like that. Makes all the sense in the world to me, right? Yeah, well, because Minneapolis defunded it, we knew this was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to happen so soon. And I had to fact check this. I had to make sure that this was legit or not, because it's an obscure site. Factnotfiction.media. Never heard of it. Some kind of blog. The headline was, who knew? 18.6% of Minneapolis real estate listings up for sale in 7 days. 18% of the real estate within Minneapolis city limits popped up on Zillow for sale within 7 days, within a week, after the city voted to disband the police force. That's hilarious. That's funny. People want to leave. Now, I didn't know the facts or the source on this, so we tried to do a little digging. It came from originally a tweet from a company called Compare the Media, at Compare the Media on Twitter. Again, not a credible source, so we dug a little bit deeper and went into the link originally coming from a source on Reddit.com. Again, not very resourceful. So I went to Zillow on my own, and I searched Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I popped up, and no price range limit or anything, but in the last 7 days, or last 14 days, I posted up there, last 14 days, you can see anything that popped up in the last 14 days. 226 results within city limits of Minneapolis, which is not, by the way, very big. The actual city limits, not the suburbs of Minneapolis in the larger area, but the city itself, 226 results. And the picture of the little dots that pop up on Zillow for the homes for sale match identical to what posted on there. So again, I don't know about the percentage, whether that's actually legit or not, but let's just say for a second, 20% almost of the entire real estate within city limits of Minneapolis went up for sale because people don't trust community-based policing. Which makes sense. If you right now you have cops that go out and try and get statements, and people are like, "Oh, I ain't talking to you." That's in my community. I'll deal with it. You don't worry about it. And they say nothing. We don't snitch, right? That's what the issue is. 20% of the population leaving. I think that shows that that's a failed policy, and Minneapolis is going to be a nice little utopia for progressives to see how bad their policies actually fail. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of The Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hoosier Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hoosier Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HoosierReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.
The Hoosier Media Network is way more than just the voice of reason. It's your source to find numerous different online talk shows, podcasts, TV, and radio programs, all in one simple online location for you. From political talk to health talk to whatever you may be interested in, we're here for you. And I tell you, it's growing every day. Catch Tracy Maxfield with her podcast, Engage, Educate, and Empower, discussing mental health issues in children and teenagers. From bullying, teenage suicide, addiction, ADHD, and so much more, learn from Tracy and her guests about symptoms, signs, and ways to talk to your children, plus so much more. Having battled depression, being the author of the internationally acclaimed book Escaping the Rabbit Hole, and being a retired nurse, Tracy is kind of the go-to on the subject. Make sure to find her on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, along with her website at tracymaxfield.com. Also, make sure to tune into the weekly podcast Jump, Pivot, and Roll with Shannon Stiles and Rachel Murphy. Taking that next big leap of faith is hard. Trying to write a book, maybe struggling with a relationship, looking to take that next big career step. What's stopping you? There's a lot of big questions there, and they're questions that help with you each and every week. It's Jump, Pivot, and Roll on any of your favorite podcasting sites and on Facebook and YouTube. All of these shows and a heck of a lot more can be found on the Hoosier Media Network Facebook and YouTube channels. Make sure to follow and subscribe to check them out today. Follow all the shows, and if you have any inquiries, check us out at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hoosierholic by going to HoosierReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hoosier Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HoosierReason.com. Oh, hi. You know, conservative messages now are more important than ever before. Election season, state legislative issues, and a rise in the radical left socialist progressive agenda. What we really need now more than ever before is knowledge and wisdom. That's where we come in. Hi, I'm Andy Hoosier with the Voice of Reason. And I'm your voice for reasonable talk, conservative commentary, great guests and entertainment on radio, TV, and the internet. It's time to bring some common sense back into the discussion. National issues, state legislative issues, no matter where you may be, upcoming elections, and a heck of a lot more, we can bring traditional values, constitutional principles, and local activism back. And here's what you can do. First, follow us on all the social media platforms at Hoosier Reason. You can watch the live stream of the show, leave comments, and even call into the program. Second, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of your audio devices, from iTunes and Spotify to Google Play and TuneIn. Make sure to subscribe to have every episode automatically downloaded so you don't miss a single episode. Third, make sure to visit our website at HoosierReason.com. You can catch our monthly blog talking about deeper discussions, see who's coming on the program, plus you can sign up for our free monthly newsletter to catch the latest on the show, monthly topics, upcoming interviews, and more. It's time to be that local activist again. That's what the Voice of Reason's all about. Why? Because that's kind of the reasonable thing to do. And it's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason.
Hey, it's Andy Hoosier with the Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on the Voice of Reason and the Hoosier Media Network.
When Reason Meets Radio. You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yes, you are. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. Thanks for hanging out with us today on a Wednesday. We'll get back to that topic in just a minute. We got limited time, so I want to try and play this. Just a couple days ago, we sat down with Congressman Bob Latta from the 5th Congressional District in the great state of Ohio, talking about the latest protests, talking about the egg economy, the reopening of the nation, and more. This is what he had to say. Again, Congressman Bob Latta from Ohio, from the 5th Congressional District in the great state of Ohio, where we just came from to talk about so much that's going on nationally across this nation. Congressman Bob Latta is joining us today on the program. Bob, how are you, my friend?
Excellent. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, absolutely. I really appreciate you joining the show. Let's start off with the uncertainty, the wariness, the fear that many have going across this nation. We saw what happened up in Minneapolis. We see the protests that are going on nationwide right now. Do you think things are going to start calming down here soon? And can we start bringing peace and making people start working together again? Because that's what we all want to see, I think.
Well, what we saw, everyone saw it, and it was a horrific act with the murder. Justice will be served, and people's rights have to be protected, and it's so important that they go move forward in Minnesota, and with the charges have been filed. But again, this is what we have to do. And as we've seen with the protests across the country, it's our right as Americans to do it under the First Amendment. Our forefathers wanted to make sure that we had that. And so, right off the bat, when they talk about freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly and petition, and freedom of the press, those are right there in the First Amendment. And unfortunately, what we've seen are these looters and rioters that want to get involved, and anarchists with this, just for their own causes, and also for just looting. And so, it's important, though, that people's voices be heard.
Mm-hmm. It really is. Is there a difference? Because from what I've seen, most protesters that are actually protesting are doing it peacefully. They want to do change. They want to make an awareness of a serious issue that I think that needs legitimate discussion. But then we see the looters that try to blend in, that try to use that as a justification to go and loot and rob and steal and vandalize and do horrible things. Is there a way that we can start differentiating between the peaceful protest that needs a legitimate hearing and the looters that are trying to use that to piggyback on it to do dumb things?
Well, and again, what happened in Minnesota, that 99.999% of law enforcement put that uniform on every day, that badge, and they do their job for us. And unfortunately, we saw what happened with one. Mm-hmm. And like what happened out in Los Angeles, that situation with looting there, the police had to be with the peaceful folks. And all of a sudden, these other people break out, and they're using cell phones and everything else to communicate. They where the police aren't. And so, again, we want to make sure that people can have their voices heard. But unfortunately, at the same time, we've got to stop these people that are looting out there, and it's horrible that they take advantage of these situations. But that's what we see happen.
Yeah, exactly. It is really sad. And if I think the peaceful protesters stood up and tried to fight against some of the looters, I think that would really shine a nice light on them as well. If they stood with police when it started getting violent, in that sense, it's really funny how this happened. As we were concerned about the coronavirus and everybody was staying home and we were keeping our social distancing, and now all of a sudden we see hundreds and thousands of people that are gathering together in one place to protest at the same time. Are we over this coronavirus yet? And is this going to potentially scare some individuals in D.C. and some leaders across the nation that we may see another flare-up of the virus because people are not social distancing?
Well, it's really important to see what, the Congress has done and the president signed into law. We want to make sure that we find a vaccine. We want to make sure that people can get, have a vaccine so they get vaccinated. At the same time, we want to make sure that there's those tests out there. And, we have seen a huge uptick in the number of tests that are being performed. I know just the other day that 457,000 tests were performed. And, these numbers are going up. And so the United States would be the leader in the world when it comes to testing. And so but it's always important for folks to always remember this. You can be tested today, but be exposed tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So people still have to always remember that. And so, but by getting the test, if you're looking at factories and things like that, for getting people back to work, that you can say, okay, this large group of the population, as long as you all, do what you're supposed to be doing out there, and being safe, that you can get back to work, because we've got to get people back to work. And so, as you've seen, all the different pieces of legislation that have been signed into law dealing with making sure that we can help those small businesses with the Paycheck Protection Plan. It's it's been a massively successful for small businesses out there. And, the average loan right now is around $114,000, which is great. We're back in session to fix something that because we wanted to make sure that that from 8 weeks to 24 weeks, so that people can act, because in a lot of cases they couldn't go back to work because of the states saying that they couldn't. So we want to make sure that from the Paycheck Protection Plan, from what they call the EIDLs for others, for helping small businesses, making sure that there's helping on the unemployment side. But where the Democrats are, they wanted to extend that $600 to extra a week out to the end of January of next year, and that's what they put in their $3 trillion boondoggle that they passed a couple weeks ago, but it has no chance of going anywhere in the United States Senate and never be signed by the president. So anything that happens has to be done in a bipartisan manner. What they pass is a truly one-sided, pure partisan bill that wasted a lot of time. So we want to make sure as we put more money in for the Paycheck Protection Plan and to move forward there. But we've got to get our small businesses, we've got to get our large businesses open, and we want to get people back to work.
That is very true, and it's frustrating when the political games start being played when people are in dire straits and the Democrats are trying to pass a $3 trillion bill that has absolutely nothing to do with actually helping individuals. Let's talk about your district for a second. We're talking with Congressman Bob Latta, the 5th Congressional District in the great state of Ohio. I spent a lot of time there. My entire family's there. I just recently came from there, and it's a great area. Your district is largely consumed by manufacturing and agriculture. Is your district doing well, and are they starting to come back, or are they still feeling the pressure of the virus?
No, it's the pressure's still out there because, of course, when the state put the orders out there about who was open, who couldn't be open, essential businesses. So you had a lot of small businesses across the state, across Northwest, West Central Ohio, that couldn't operate. And so it put a lot of pressure out there. And, I had counties that were at a 1.9% unemployment rate last year, one county, and others in the 2% range. And, now you're looking at unemployment, 14, 15, 16% unemployment. So that's why I say that we need to get back to work. But again, that issues that arise is that, when one part of the country or one part of the state say, okay, it might be okay for you to start back up, The problem with that is it's, especially with 60,000 manufacturing jobs, like I have the 5th District before this all started, that you have a supply chain issue. It could be that somebody in that supply could be operating, but they can't ship it to the next because they're shut down, or couldn't go to the next step to the OEM. So it's important that we get everything operating and getting people back. And when I talk about supply chain, it's also important because not only when you're thinking about on the manufacturing side, but on the pharmaceutical side, it's so important because when you think about that our antibiotics not being manufactured in the United States anymore, and that we rely on one or two countries to get them to us, we've got to change that, and making sure that we do it here. And then also what we call rare earth minerals. There's so many types of things that have to be used in manufacturing that 98% of them now come from China. And the problem with that, of course, is if they shut us down, we're done. But we can do that in this country, but we got to get the Democrats and the liberals to understand that we have got to take care of ourselves. And especially on the rare earth mineral side, it's important to make sure that we mine those right here and take care of Americans.
There's so many things I want to talk to you about with the trade deals, with things going on outside of the virus as well. But last question for you is we got to let you go. As you mentioned, the $3 trillion bill that failed in the Senate that was ridiculous. Is there a legitimate chance that we can come in and actually get a decent bill out of the House and the Senate that's going to really help Americans during this time? And do you see another round of stimulus checks going out to the everyday American, or is it just going to be solely focused on businesses from here on out?
Well, I think those are really great questions because, first of all, when we're looking like the Paycheck Protection Plan, well, there's still billions of dollars there that have been appropriated that have not been expended and sent out by companies and businesses applying for them. When you look on the medical side, there's $175 billion there, or $150 billion there. That we put the money there. That money is still going out. We still see the Federal Communications Commission with the money that they have for telehealth. They're dispersing the dollars across the country now, but there's still they got a lot of money there. So, one of the things we want to do is we want to make sure that people do get back to work. And, one of the disincentives I've heard from so many businesses is that they want people to come back to work because they say, well, I make more money on unemployment. And, so they say we can't compete against that. And so we want to make sure that the doors of businesses are open so people can get back to the jobs they had. And because, again, we've got to get the economy moving. And I think that before we see any more stimuluses, I know that over in the Senate they're saying the same thing. We say the same thing as House Republicans. We spent trillions of dollars right now. Let's see how those dollars have been spent and are being spent, and then we'll take a look at it. But there's still dollars there that are available, and let's utilize that before you say we're going to spend $3 trillion. And this is the way the Democrats work is. They come up with a figure, then they figure out how they're going to spend it. Well, the way we look at it is, what's the issue? What's the cause? What do we need to do? Then we fund it, but you just can't do it the reverse way.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of The Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hoosier Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hoosier Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HoosierReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station. We're here for you. Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HoosierReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the Voice of Reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hoosier. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HoosierReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HoosierReason.com.
Oh, hi. You know, conservative messages now are more important than ever before. Election season, state legislative issues, and a rise in the radical left socialist progressive agenda. What we really need now more than ever before is knowledge and wisdom. That's where we come in. Hi, I'm Andy Hoosier with the Voice of Reason, and I'm your voice for reasonable talk, conservative commentary, great guests and entertainment on radio, TV, and the internet. It's time to bring some common sense back into the discussion. National issues, state legislative issues, no matter where you may be, upcoming elections, and a heck of a lot more, we can bring traditional values, constitutional principles, and local activism back. And here's what you can do. First, follow us on all the social media platforms at Hoosier Reason. You can watch the live stream of the show, leave comments, and even call into the program. Second, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of your audio devices, from iTunes and Spotify to Google Play and TuneIn. Make sure to subscribe to have every episode automatically downloaded so you don't miss a single episode. Third, make sure to visit our website at HoosierReason.com. You can catch our monthly blog talking about deeper discussions, see who's coming on the program, plus you can sign up for our free monthly newsletter to catch the latest on the show, monthly topics, upcoming interviews, and more. It's time to be that local activist again. That's what the Voice of Reason's all about. Why? Because that's kind of the reasonable thing to do. And it's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hoosierholic by going to HoosierReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hoosier Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HoosierReason.com.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the program today. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite podcasting sites and have the show automatically downloaded to your phone or computer every single day. Just find us on any podcasting site or go to HoosierReason.podbean.com. And be sure to check out our Patreon site, become the ultimate Hoosierholic, and help us fight for conservative values every day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Now back to the national broadcast of the Voice of Reason.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
You bet you are. Welcome into the Voice of Reason. Last segment wrapping up today. It goes by way too fast. Thanks again to Congressman Bob Latta from the 5th Congressional District joining the program. We'll chat with him again here very soon. Coming up tomorrow, we have another great guest. I think everybody's live the rest of the week, which I'm excited about. Next week is completely booked on the show. The following week is already starting to fill up, so we are staying well ahead because people are excited, man. The energy and the intensity of the show has been phenomenal and off the hook, as the young kids say. I'm a millennial. I don't remember ever using that. Off the hook. Maybe I did once or twice. Doesn't really matter. Make sure to check us out. Thanks again, as we are flagshipped right here in Wichita, Kansas on KQAM. We're all over social media, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter, Twitch. You can find our channels at Hoosier Reason on all those at Hoosier Reason, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. Doesn't matter. Find us there. And you can subscribe, follow us. You can let us. It can notify you whenever you actually want to see the live show. And you can download the podcast. The podcast has been growing astronomically as well, which you can find it on all the podcasting sites, from iTunes to Google Play to Apple Tunes or Apple iTunes to TuneIn to Spotify and all that stuff. So it's on all of them. All you got to do is search The Voice of Reason, and you'll be able to find it, have it automatically downloaded to your listening device, and that way you can not miss a single episode of the show. Wrapping up the program today, as we've talked about the defunding of law enforcement, what it actually looks like. The town of Minneapolis, the city of Minneapolis, shows, at least according to them, close to 18%, over 18% of all the real estate within city limits went up for listings for sale within 7 days of them announcing that they wanted to defund law enforcement and do community policing. Why? Because you have terrible gun laws that won't let you protect your home or yourself when you're in city limits or your home. And oh, by the way, you're not going to have anybody to call when something bad happens. And you would think that would be a life lesson to be learned as other places start looking at reforming or defunding in some way, shape, or form. And they try to say, Andy, it's not defunding, it's moving the money, which to me would be defunding. We're creating a new agency, right? We're just going to create a new one, and that way, like, social workers that can come out during a domestic dispute while the husband's beating on his wife, we're going to try and talk him down, not arrest him. Because that's going to make all the sense. Does it feel satisfying and fulfilling when you actually feel like you do something like that?
I'm a big kid now.
I mean, do you feel like we've done something? We've done something to make our lives better. Albuquerque, who just wanted to create the new social worker thing, maybe you should reconsider because of what's happening in Minneapolis. These are going to be the social experiments, which I say, you know what, I don't live there, don't come here, and I'll be fine. But this will be the experiment. If that's what you want, see how well it works for you. Prove me wrong. I'm open to discussion. We're the reasonable types here. We like to listen to all sides. Prove me wrong. If you think policing will work, my thought and strategy would be, if you really truly believe in community policing, then why don't you do that before you defund law enforcement, and you do the community policing on your own to the point law enforcement doesn't have to go to that community. If law enforcement goes for a year without going to a certain community, then they'll be like, guess they got it handled. We haven't got any calls. There's not any murders. There's not any break-ins. There's not any shoplifters. There's not anything going on. They're handling things perfect. We just need like an on-call guy to, handle an issue if there's a problem. No domestic issue, nothing. But when something happens, who do you call? Ghostbusters. Who do you call? You call law enforcement. That's what you do. There's no police. What are you going to do? You're going to call the community header-upper and be like, hey, someone's breaking into my house. They're going to show up and be like, now, you can't be breaking into your neighbor's home. What are you doing? Are they going to have the right to do citizens' arrests? And if you get rid of law enforcement, who's going to process them into jails? How's that going to work? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, but that's what they want to do. So if you want something like this, prove us wrong. Say that we don't need it. And go do something like, I'm going to create my community policing. We're going to not have any crime, any domestic dispute issues, nothing that goes on in our community. So to prove to police that we don't need you, then we can have that discussion. But instead, it happens, and we ask about it to stop it, and you say, mind your own. We don't want you. Okay. Then how are we supposed to address the issue? It continues on. Look at Chicago. Shooting after shooting after shooting. Crime all over the place. When we try and go and ask about it, no one talks. No one wants to divulge any information. Okay. Then it's going to continue to happen. As long as you're okay with it, I guess, then that's cool. Just, destroy your own community. I don't want that. I want someone to be there to try and at least prevent it, or the show of force to show that something could be done. And at the end of the day, I'm still going to take matters into my own hands if it's involved with me. That's what we do. But nonetheless, some just don't think that way. And I guess that's all right, too, for them. I just feel bad for the others that have to be involved with it as well. That does it for today. Make sure to check out the podcast. It'll be up here soon. Until then, as everybody needs to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. We'll be back at it here with the Voice of Reason tomorrow on a Thursday, getting ready to wrap up the week on a pre-Friday celebration. Everybody have a great Wednesday. Hey, it's Andy Hoosier with the Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HoosierReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HoosierReason.com. Again, HoosierReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.